Right, so I assume if you're watching this video, you know what you're using samples for. But the sample is going to be the oscillator for your sound. It is the sound itself. So when we start with this, we've got to get the samples into the product. We can use the audio input to record straight in, but we're not going to do that. I'm just going to use some samples that have been pre-saved already on USB. They must be in WAV format, and then they can be imported into the actual sample memory in the product. So I've got to mode, I've got to media. On the screen here I've switched to USB at the bottom, and I've got a list of all the individual samples. We can sample them here, we can listen to them. So if I choose a sample on the screen, I can press play. So you can hear the samples. I've got all sorts of different samples for all sorts of different things. I've got individual choir samples, which can be used individually. I've got a sample here, which is a famous sort of flute sample. And the samples can be used on a single key or spread over a range of keys to be used as a sound. And you can make a sound from lots of individual samples all put together. So I'm going to take this flute sample and I'm going to load it so it goes into the sample memory. That's it, that's in there. So that means now if I press mode and I go to the sampling screen, in here it's going to be possible for me to select that sample from the sample list here. Now before we do that, I'm just going to go and create a fresh multisample. Now multisample is where you layer all your samples, whether you want to have 1 or 16 or whatever number of samples you want to put in there for that individual sound source. So at the top here I'm going to hit that, and this is all the multi-samples. Now when I choose one, it will automatically create a new multi-sample, and if I want I can tick the stereo box just there and then press OK. So now I've got a brand new multi-sample. Press OK in the bottom corner and it's there. Now I've not assigned any samples. We do have another screen, an actual multi-sample edit screen. Now if I press the page button on the right, I can then hit multi-sample, and this screen is dedicated just to getting my samples into this multi-sample. So just to be clear, the multi-sample is one sample or multiple samples layered together to make your sound. Now this is separated by something called indexes. The index numbers here, at the minute there's only one, so it will always have one index starting at the bottom key, and that'll come up to whatever key we tell it it's going to reach to just there. So first of all I'm going to touch where it says sample. There's a sample I just loaded from the media screen. So I touch that and I press OK. I've just chosen the -L, which is a left sample. It knows it's stereo, so it's automatically set up the left and right together. Now what I know is that this sample was originally in the key, or the note that was originally sampled was the A3 key. So I need to know. That's important because I've got to tell it what the original key was so it's pitched correctly. So I'm going to say, right, original key. Now there's a shortcut. Instead of just doing that and spinning the value wheel, I'm going to hold enter and I'm going to hit the key that I want it to original pitch at. So I'm actually going to put it more towards the middle of the keyboard, so it's going to say A4, but it's an A. That's all that matters. And then the top key is how much higher I want this sample to stretch to. So if I hold enter and I just stretch maybe to the F key above, so it shows F5. If I play the keys now, I should trigger that sample. Okay, so now we know the sample's there and it's working. I can do a number of things. I can hear it with the effects if I want. I can just leave it as it is, and I can actually even convert that straight to a sound. Now just so you're aware, with samples, when you're using a single sample, you can only stretch that over so many keys before the sample starts getting a bit useless in many ways, which is why we tend to put lots of samples together of individual notes to make a higher quality sound across. So if I play that a lower note here, it's all slowed and lower, but in the sort of typical range of a couple of notes, perfectly usable. So if I want to quickly make this into a sound, touch the top right corner, I can click on Convert Multisample to Program. Now, just before I do that, to make things easy in the future, especially if you come back to load these in or have an auto load file, we want to name the multisample so we know exactly what it is if we ever want to edit it again or whatever. So I'm going to click on rename MS, which is rename multisample. So we're going to choose that. I'm going to delete it, and because it's the flute sound, I'll just type in flute. Okay, and then OK, and that's it. You'll see up here in my multisample list, that's now called flute left, flute right. So it's automatically created the stereo sample, multisample, as we said before. So I'm going to convert that to a sound. Top right corner, convert multisample to program. Touch that. It shows the name and it's asking me where I want to put it. So I'm going to touch that. I like to put things in an empty space. I'm going to go to bank S. I'm going to choose not. Press OK, and just press OK again. Okay, and that's it. If I come out of this mode to program, I'm going to touch the top right corner, quickly go to, top left corner, go to bank S, touch flute, and that's it. The sound is created. Now, obviously with something like that, I might want to add a few effects or something. We can add effects. We can take a quick look at that. I can just go to page, go to the master effects screen, maybe turn on the master effect here and just pick a reverb, just to give us some kind of effect. All the different effects here. Bit of reverb hold. I'm not going to go deep into the effects, it's just a simple, that's turn the reverb on and it's automatically assigned to the two master effects when you've created the program. So I'll just save that, top right corner, write program, OK, and it'll just overwrite the program with the changes that I've made. That's good, but of course we might want to use other samples for other things. So I was saying before, we've got some choir samples. Like a Gregorian sort of chant style thing. So I need to get them samples from my USB into the memory. So I'm going to go to mode, back to media. Now you can see I've got my sample list here. I'll just give you an example of some. I won't set up the entire thing because of course it's just the technique of doing it that's important here. We can select multiple files. I don't have to do one load, next one load. So I can choose the top one and go multiple select, and then I can highlight whatever samples I want in there. So they've all gone green. If I press load now, yeah, I'm sure, and they all get loaded in. So once they're in, I can now go back to sampling, mode, sampling, and I want to create a fresh multi-sample. So I don't want to affect the flute one. So we're still in our multi-sample page here. I'm going to touch where it says multi-sample. I'm going to touch an empty slot on here. Do I want stereo? Yeah. Press OK. and now I've got another new multi-sample. So in this one is where I'm going to put these different choir samples. So press OK. Again, very good to rename the actual multi-sample so you don't get lost or confused with them afterwards. So I'm going to rename the multi-sample, touch the name, delete this, and we'll just I'll call it chant. Okay, and that's done. Now I'm going to do something a bit different with this. I'm going to assign the samples to the upper part of the keyboard, so like your top C and D and E and so forth in sequence, because I'm just going to have one sample on an individual key at a time, because they're not, it's not going to be a sound to play, they're going to be individual triggered samples which you could use for effects or anything. So first thing to do is actually bring a sample in. Now when I touch the sample list, just so you can see there it says sample, all the individual samples are loaded in that were selected before, the left and right versions, the stereo versions. So I'm going to choose the first one and press OK. I want to set up the original key. Now the original key I want to be the same note as the note I'm going to play to trigger the sample. So I'm not pitching it in any way, shape or form. I just want it to be the original sample. So I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to hit a C near the top of the keyboard. The reason I'm doing it at the top of the keyboard as well is because I'm going to put this in a combination later on. And when it's using a combination, the middle area I want to be the flute, and the lower section can be a sound from the instrument itself. But I mean, you could layer it anywhere you want, but that's just the way I'm going to do it in this case. You can also set up zones in combi mode anyway, but by doing it this way it does make life easier afterwards when you're trying to create your layers on your combination mode. So top key, the top key I effectively want to be the same key, because I just want that single note. So when I hit that key now, I should get that first sample. There we go. So I now want to add a totally new choir sample, the next key up, so the C sharp, D flat, whatever you want to be. So we have to create another index. So that's the first index. Another index is basically just another sample over whatever keys you specify. So as we were saying before, there's index 1 of 1. When I click on create down here, it creates another index based upon these parameters. So where it says zone range 1 key, that's fine. I just want it on 1 key. Original key position is the first note, the bottom of that key range, which is fine. And when it says position, it means it's going to appear the next note to the right of the index we've selected now, which finishes at C6. So I'm going to click on create, and it says C sharp 6, C sharp 6, that's the next note up, semitone. You'll see no sample. So now I can just go in, choose my next sample, so number 2, press OK, and that's that one done. So if I press the key, in nomine Christi, Amen. So now I can just carry on and do that. If I press create, I've got another one, next note up, D, all based on these parameters. So I hit sample here, number 3, OK, and it gets really quick. Press create, I can choose the 4th sample, and I can just keep going. Press create, choose the 5th sample. So I can just keep doing this, creating individual indexes, just for whatever I want. Now if I want to change, if I want to see what I've done in the other indexes, so I'm on number 6 there, if I flick that back, I can see index 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I can see that there, that should be sample number 6. So I'm just going to change that, so we can see what's in each individual index easily. Press create. Let's do another one. Touch the screen. 7. Press create. Number 8. And we'll just do the last one, number 9. And that's it now. So if I play these keys in sequence, you'll hear the different samples. So that's done. You can see that can be used for so many different things, effects, whatever you want, triggering samples from anything you like. I need to make that now into another program. Easy, touch the top right corner, convert MS to program. It's got the name of the multisample that we typed in, so I don't need to type a name in. Choose the next program up in bank S where it's empty. Press OK. Yep. And that's it. I can go mode, back to program. Touch next to the sound there and we can see there's the chants. These samples have got effects already in. You can hear there's a reverb. So I don't need to necessarily add any more effects. Now, in that sense, that's it. You've actually created your programs, your sounds, they're done. You can do what you want with them, but there is something you've got to do, which is to resave all your samples to the media. If you don't save them, when you turn back on, everything's going to be gone. So I have to go to mode, into media, and I have to go to save. Now at this point I'd recommend going to the internal hard drive, and then we touch the top right corner and we've got down here save sampling data. I touch save sampling data. Now there's a lot of options on here. I'm not going to go through them all. I'm just going to leave it effectively as standard. This can go so far in depth and it'd just be forever on the video doing different options and things. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to touch this box and type in a name. So I'm going to call it choir, whatever you want to call it. Press OK. This will save all the samples, the flute, whatever we've put in there, all in a file that the system can reload automatically when the product's turned back on. This is a Korg sample collection, so this is a file that contains everything, where the sounds are, the samples a lot. Now, sampling mode data, perfect. That's what we want to do. I want it to basically just save everything. I'm not going to mess about with the different options. We could, if we wanted, use the force new user sample bank ID, which means it's going to stop problems when you load something in where there used to be a different sample and it causes you issues. But I'm just going to leave it like this for now and press OK. So that will now save, and that's done. There's the choir folder and the KSC and the bank data, everything that's been created to do with that multi-sample file. At that point you can load this back in anytime you want. You can also set up the product to auto load this data in global mode when you turn the product on, but ultimately for your sampling and sound creation, that's everything done. So if you want to make it so it automatically loads when you turn the keyboard on, we have to set the KSC file we just saved in the global mode. So I'll go to mode, global, and along the bottom we've got KSC auto load. Now in here, what we can do now, you've got the standard preload file, which basically loads when the product is turned on for any sample data that Korg set from the factory. But I might want my stuff to go in, what I've just done. So if I add KSC there in the bottom corner, I can now choose the KSC file I've just created and press add, and that's it. The auto load box is ticked there, and that's it. It tells you about the RAM size and everything, so that's done. When you turn the product on, that will automatically load the preload data plus whatever you've just done with all your multi-sample data and everything else. So that's that dealt with. That's really quite simple. So what I said before is I want to make a combination with these sounds. So now we've got these samples, I can easily layer them up even with normal sounds from the product, do all sorts. So I'm going to make a combination. We can even do quick layer and quick split and go into combination mode, but I'll do it with a blank combination first. So I'm going to go mode, combination, and in here what I want to do is choose somewhere blank. We've got all these spaces we can use. I'm going to go to this one here. Okay. Now, these are the individual channels, sounds that are being used, are programs that are being put together to make the combination. Here is the sound itself, or the program itself that's being used. So if I simply touch that, go to bank S and choose the flute, press OK. That's the flute in there, and the flute finishes at the note we specified in the sample range. So that does make things a little bit easier because that zone is sort of set already. But we'll do a bit more of that in a second. So what I want to do now is bring in the chant sound at the same time. So I'm going to press plus. I'm going to touch the name, back to bank S, go to chants and press OK. And at the same time now, as well as the flute, you probably hear I've got all these choirs, or the first sample coming in with the flute at the same time. What I need to do now is tell that channel to just operate within the zone at the top end that it was set to originally. So I'm going to set the bottom key basically as the first sample on the high C. So I'm going to go to page, and then here we've got MIDI filter / zones. So press zones. I've got keyboard zones at the bottom, and this shows us what every track or every part, the key range that it covers. So this at the top is the highest key, at the bottom that's the key that it starts at. So this one, which is where the chants are on, number 2, I'm going to go to C1. I only want that to start at the high C, so I'm going to hold the enter key and press the C, and it's changed. You can hear, and where I play the flute, the actual chants have disappeared because they're not within that key range. Now if I want to, I can also go to the bottom key for the flute, press enter, and just set that up somewhere around maybe middle C, and that means anything below that note, there's just nothing because we haven't got anything set up to cover that key range yet. So I'm going to exit back out. What I could do now, for example, is put on a pad sound or something for my left hand. So I'm going to press plus. So I'm going to touch the voice. We can go to category search and search for things by category. So if I wanted a vocal type sound, I might choose vocal or brass or whatever it is I want to play along. So I'm going to go to slow synth, go across, have a look. There's so many different sounds I can use. I can hear. Just playing the chords in my left hand if you can't see the keys, just playing some notes to hear the sounds. So let's say I want that, I'll press OK. Now I need that, obviously I don't want that across all the other samples. I don't want that with my flute, I just want it to finish where the flute starts. So I'm going back to the keyboard zone page, and we can set that. So I'm going to press page, into zones. I'm going to set the top key this time, hold enter. It can finish on the B in this case, and that's it. That won't trigger beyond that note then. We can do all sorts of other things. We can go to the individual parameters. Maybe I want to increase the tuning, so the pitch. So I can go to pitch here. I can take that pad, I can take it up 12, so it's an octave. And now so I can play my left hand and play the flute. So at the moment, still no effects. So I'm just going to turn a reverb on like we did before. Go to page, go to master effects, turn it on, and quickly choose a reverb. Again, I'm not going into great detail with the effects and things, just to show. So instantly we can hear the reverb's gone on because it is assigned automatically to have the master effects 1 and 2 turned on. So if I play a chord now, so now I started building our layers. So as you can imagine now, if I play my left hand, if I want to save the combination, top right corner, right combination, give it a name, choose which category I want it in if I wish to, and which combination I want it in. So I could call it, I don't know, my choir, chant, something like that, whatever you want to call it. Press OK, and I'm happy that it's going there. Press OK. And that's it, that's stored. Obviously that's just a quick example. You can do loads of different things, effects, layers, whatever you want to do, but that's one way to use the samples.